Will the Aldermen please take their seats? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 2025-2026 Board of Aldermen Budget Deliberations. Today is Monday, April 14th, 2025, and we are continuing with our department presentation portion of the 2025-2026 Aldermanic Budget process. Will everyone please stand up and join me as we pledge allegiance and salute our flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Secretary, would you please take the roll?
Alderman Archiola. Alderman Beatty.
Present.
Alderman Bevan.
Here.
Alderman Casey.
Here.
Alderman Federico. Here. Alderman Fowler.
Here.
Alderman Healing. Alderman Jenkins.
Here.
Alderman Marlowe.
Here.
Alderman Morenin.
Here.
Alderman Pacelli.
Alderman Baselli is going to be a little bit late, Madam
you.
Secretary.
Alderman Smith. Alderman Vitro.
Here.
Alderman Vitale. Alderman Willis.
Here.
12 are present.
12 present. We do have a quorum. Is there a motion to come out of recess?
So moved.
A motion is made and seconded to come out of recess. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are out of recess. The first department on our agenda tonight is the Boys and Girls Club, page 92. The Chief Executive Officer is the Megan Altimer. Hello there.
It's on now. Yeah. I think so. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. Perfect.
Anytime you're ready, we're set.
Perfect. Good evening, members of the Board of Aldermen and city staff. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight on behalf of the Boys and Girls Club of Milford. I want to begin by sincerely thanking you for your continued support. Your investment in the club is more than a line item. It is a commitment to Milford's kids and families, and it makes a real measurable difference. Each year we serve nearly 1,400 young people and more than 20% of Milford's school-age population, providing a safe, structured environment during the hours when kids need us most. Our programs support academic success, physical and emotional wellness, leadership development, and connecting to caring adult mentors. Whether it's helping a child complete their homework, connecting them to a healthy meal, or building their confidence, our mission is rooted in helping every child reach their full potential. Your support helps us keep these services affordable and accessible for all families, especially those who rely on us while they work. And because of you, we are able to evolve our programming to meet the changing needs of our community. One of the areas that we've most focused on is our teen population. As we continue to navigate the long-term impact of the pandemic, teens are facing unique challenges: higher rates of anxiety and depression, increased social isolation, and academic setbacks. In response, we've expanded our teen programming dramatically. We now offer more leadership opportunities, career exploration events, college prep resources, and social-emotional support for middle school and high schoolers. Our team membership has grown significantly, and we're proud to say that our club is now a space where teens want to be. Supporting this age group is not only critical, it's urgent. Looking ahead, we plan to grow that reach even further, offering more targeted programs that help teens build resilience, find purpose, and stay on a path towards bright futures. Your continued funding helps make that possible. We know every budget decision you make requires critical, careful consideration. That's why we work tirelessly to be good stewards of the city's investment. Leveraging additional grants and donations, collaborating with schools and local partners, and keeping our doors open to all who need us. But when it comes down to it, this isn't just about dollars, it's about impact. It's about the kids who walk through the doors each day looking for connection. It's about the parents who know their children are safe, and it's about investing in the future of our city, one young person at a time. Thank you for your time and your continued support. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes, we have some questions. Alderman Casey.
Thank you. Good evening, Megan. So how many years have you been the leader of Boys and Girls Club of Milford?
14 and a half, and it's crazy.
How did you change it? Did changes in Milford and like in the club? So like, how could you characterize what are you focusing now versus what are you focusing then? And the club is growing, like crazy now.
Yeah.
So like, can you take it through it now? Thanks.
Definitely. So when we opened our door about 15 years ago, we had 30 kids, and now we're serving just under 1,400. So there's been quite an expansion, and the kids have definitely changed. The parents have definitely changed. Some for the good, some we are still working on. And I think that the kids need us differently than they needed us 15 years ago. They need us to be a positive influence in their life. They need us to make sure maybe they're not on their devices at all points in time. They need a lot more structure and consequences to their actions. So I think that's something that we really try to continually instill that we've seen an increase in over the years. Yeah.
Alderman Marlowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hi, Megan. Megan, how large a staff do you have right now? How many people?
There's 46 staff in total. 6 of us are full-time and the rest are part-time.
Okay, and what, I know you're the Boys and Girls Club and you're under the big Boys and Girls Club umbrella. What other sources of funding do you have?
So we are a member of the Girls Club of America. We each are a once-over entity with our own 501c3, so it's not available.
Thank you.
Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Good evening, Megan, and thank you for your dedication. I also want to point out that United Way also helps Boys and Girls Club. Could you just, for the amount of the grant, is that go into general operations or is it programs specific?
None. Did I answer your question enough? Yeah, okay, perfect.
Alderman Federico.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you to the director. First, I just want to thank you for everything you folks do over there. You're amazing. My son was a member quite a few years ago and had a great time in the programs. Can you just talk about how you're using your facilities today a little bit, where your locations are? I believe there's 2.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So our main clubhouse is out of the Simon Lake building, and that's where we have our elementary school age kids that come from Pumpkin Delight, JFK, Mathewson, Meadowside, and Orange Ave. We are using West Shore Rec Center for our teen programming. So that's where the middle school and high school age kids go. And then we also have 3 school sites, because just proximity to where our clubhouse is and where the schools are, it just doesn't logistically make sense for families. So we're at Live Oaks, Orchard Hills, and Calf Pen Meadow.
Where's the last place?
Calf Pen Meadow, so all 3 of the schools on the furthest side of town from us. Yeah, so that way we're able to serve every kid in the community.
Alderman Archeolo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Megan. Hi, Megan. I just had a quick question about if the Boys and Girls Club takes advantage of any federal grants or receives any federal grants at the moment.
So we do get some federal grants. We're very lucky that nothing has been cut.
Yeah.
And we are very lucky that we have a very diversified budget. So even if there was to be a cut, while it would hurt, we would not be in a terrible, terrible position.
That actually answered my second question. In the event that that funding was cut, how detrimental would it be?
Yeah.
And what safeguards would you have in place in the event that happened?
We worked very hard to diversify our budget since day one. So
Excellent.
Yeah.
Very cool. Thank you.
I was going to ask you, how many boys and girls you have enrolled in your program?
So I want to say it's 1,387 is the number last time I checked. And we count kids from basically July 1st through the end of June. That's how we keep track per year.
Very good. Any more questions for Megan? Okay. Thank you very much for your presentation. Appreciate your answering all our questions. The next department on our agenda is the Fire Department, page 51. Chief Anthony Fabrici. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening.
You can start anytime you're ready.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and I thank you for your time and consideration during the budget process. The fire department continues to take a conservative yet calculated approach to budget increases. Please keep in mind, as we navigate through the second half of this current fiscal year, that for the first time in well over a decade, we are operating with a budget that meets the obligations of our collective bargaining agreement. We have taken the time to evaluate expenditures from previous fiscal years and crafted our proposed budget data based upon the data we observed. There are numerous factors we must consider, including but not limited to the health and safety of our firefighters, training objectives, and rising costs across the board due to inflation. We continue to seek grant funding opportunities and have been awarded north of $1 million since 2019 in grant awards for the city. This has alleviated the city's obligation and taxpayer burden to fund or bond for the purchase of this mandatory life-saving equipment. The fire department remains on pace with generating approximately $2.5 million in revenue for the city at the conclusion of this current fiscal year, an approximate $225,000 increase over the 23-24 fiscal year. This is accomplished through EMS services provided by our firefighter paramedics and EMTs, EMS billing for services rendered, and permit and inspection fees from our fire marshal's division. We continue to face other challenges such as employee retention, which can negatively impact our overtime and wages line items. In January of this year, The department was finally fully staffed after experiencing 17 vacancies in the recent past. Less than a few months later, we are looking at 5 confirmed vacancies by the end of April. The city continues to see a staggering amount of development and growth, particularly through the construction of multi-unit housing and apartment structures. This factor alone has and will continue to increase our overall call volume and demand for services from our department. The fire department continues in its mission to provide the highest level of emergency services and care for our citizens and visitors through a well-trained firefighting force. We respectfully acknowledge your difficult decisions that you must make this evening, but we simply ask for your continued support and consideration in passing this budget as proposed. If I may continue and say that our budget came in this year at a 3.71% increase overall. However, the lion's share of that increase is due to wage obligations as defined by the collective bargaining agreement. There were only 2 line items in which our requests were not met, and that is training in fire clothing and rubber goods. I'm happy to discuss those with you, but I do want to point out in the budget under holiday pay, some of you may have noticed that the mayor recommended a smaller amount than we requested. That was due to calculations in which we trust our finance director. Thank you. In which we entrust our finance director to give a better calculation for our budget. So with that said, there's 2 line items in particular, our training budget and our fire clothing and rubber goods. And if there's any question regarding the budget overall or those 2 line items, I'm happy to discuss.
Alderman Marlowe.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, Chief. You had mentioned in your introduction there about the vacancies, and they were filled, and now you have another 5. And I know we've talked about this in past years. What is it that you see as having firemen not stay within Milford and want to go to a different district?
There's no one particular reason, but again, one of the major contributing factors is pension and wages and benefits. I think that is looked at by this generation, and they look at what will be at the end of the road for me when I complete a 25-year career. What will be waiting for me pension-wise. And not only that, even the week after week paycheck. Salaries in comparison, we've lost firefighters to neighboring cities such as New Haven, Bridgeport, Norwalk. Some of them do pay higher on the hourly side. Some of them have a better pension structure at the end of the 25-year career.
Alderman Jenkins.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, to Chief Fabrizi. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for coming tonight. I just have one question with regard to the line items here. And we have the educational supplement, which has gone up. And would you talk a little bit about the benefit that the fire department offers to firefighters with regard to that continued education? Is that fire science? Is that professional development? Is that both?
So it does cover the cost or supplementation or the stipend for college education. It does in fact cover that. However, what you're seeing in there as well is our EMT and paramedic bonuses, which are structured and taken from that line item.
Chief, under the fire clothing and rubber goods, I see you asked for 100,000 and you're only giving 85,000. How are you going to work that out with a little deduction in what you were asking?
Thank you, Chairman.
How are you going to make that work?
Sure, thank you. So the fire department each firefighter on the fire department has 2 sets of turnout gear, the gear you see them wearing in the street with the reflective striping. Each set of that gear is just north of $4,000. We have developed a rotational replacement program in which we have to buy 25 sets per year to maintain that. The frontline set becomes the backup set at 5 years, and they receive a new set. So the gear is good for a 10-year lifespan. They have a primary set and a backup, and every 5 years they're getting a new set ordered. So that's 25 sets per year we have to order times 4,000, that's a hard number, is $100,000. So that's where that came in. Now, how do we make up for that? We do have EMS revenue that we could fill the void and pay for the overages there in the cost of that gear. And again, look, I just want to reiterate, I understand the city's difficult position, and this is a workable budget for us. We can make this work, but I think what can't be lost in this presentation or this discussion, what needs to resonate with all of you is that we must have a deeper discussion moving forward in the future. The city has grown. The call volume has doubled in the past 30 years from 4,500, more than doubled, 4,500 to almost 10,000 now. Personnel are extremely busy. It's extremely challenging to keep them on the training ground. We've been committing EMS revenue funds that we take in to hire back personnel to provide coverage in the city while the firefighters train, just so we can keep them on the training ground. It's imperative at this stage of the game. They're very young, our firefighters. Our department has become very young. We cannot replace that time and tenure and experience that walked out the door. So what's our best option is to keep these firefighters well-trained, and that helps keep them safe and lets them go home at the end of their shift. So we've been committing more funds to that as well. So again, it's a workable budget, but it leaves the door open to the future that we must not fall behind here from the fire department's perspective. The city has grown, the call volume's increasing, personnel are being utilized, as you know, on their shifts, so they're being pulled from training ground. It's a challenge, and that's a conversation for another day. But again, I can manage it through EMS revenue and the budget that's before you for this fiscal year.
Alderman Federico.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, actually to the Finance Director first, if I may. The Fire Chief mentioned $2.5 million in revenue brought into the city from the Fire Department. Would I find that in my revenue accounts if I added up certain accounts? And you don't have to tell me right now, you could email it to me tomorrow, but.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Alderman Federico, I can quickly say that relates to the EMS revenue, and it's allocated between the general fund and the EMS special revenue fund. And so the dollar amount, I believe, and that the chief is referring to is the total revenue combined general fund plus the portion that goes into the EMS special revenue account. Thank you.
Okay, so you'll break out the general fund piece for me in an email?
The general fund is actually in the budget book, listed as paramedic fees. So there is a line item in the general fund revenue that you can refer to.
Got it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then another question to the Finance Director. Can you talk a little bit about how overtime is accounted for in this budget, and in light of recent conversations, if there's anything else we need to be considering?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Alderman Federico, are you referring to the fire department overtime?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll allow the chief to comment as well on that, but as I said in our earlier session, in the executive session, I believe, the department has worked with the administration over the years to gradually increase that account, and I'll allow the chief to comment about the overtime and its history. Thank you.
So through you, Mr. Chair, to Alderman Federico, as far as the overtime, there was a period where we were down approximately 17 vacancies, causing a vast amount of overtime in the department, and that may be jogging your memory, so to speak, where that overtime budget was being expended quite quickly and we were going over budget. However, in the past couple of years, we've managed through the budget increases and filling the vacancies within the department to bring that under better control. Now, when I mentioned earlier that we do hire back firefighters for overtime to provide shift coverage, and I utilize the EMS revenue account to do so, not only for training coverage, but it could be any instance where I might need overtime over and above what would be normally dictated by daily departmental operations. I can move that a certain specified amount of funds from the EMS revenue into the overtime EMS fund and then apply it towards overtime for the firefighters for coverage.
Okay. Okay, and then I have one last question. In your previous comment, you were saying that there's a conversation for a later date about the future of the fire department. When would you envision, or when do you think we should have that conversation? Because we see you and we have this discussion typically once a year. And then we see you when there's ordinances related to the fire department and such, but we don't see you for that conversation, so.
Sure. So again, as I maintain, this is a workable budget for this coming fiscal year, but prior to the beginning of next year's fiscal budget, I think it would be ideal to have a conversation regarding where the trajectory of the department, the services we must continue to provide for the city, the demand on our services, the impact to our firefighters, staffing levels. Those are all conversations, and that's not anything new that I'm bringing up here. These are conversations or comments we've made in recent years past, at least 2 or 3, if not longer. And we maintain that in order to stay ahead of it, we would rather be proactive than reactive as the fire department. And we are getting to a tipping point where it's going to be a reactive move if we don't at least entertain a conversation regarding those matters, such as staffing, budgetary line item increases, EMS revenue, whatever the case may be.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Alderman Archeolo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. Actually, I actually don't have a question for the chief. I think you've been an excellent financial steward of your department, and I have nothing but good things to say. I am commenting that I don't know if the mic is on. Oh, okay, I hear it now. Sorry, I was having difficulty hearing you. But no, I think you've been a consummate professional and an excellent steward of your department. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alderman Beatty.
Thank you. Through you, Chairperson Vicho, to the chief. Likewise, I don't have a question, but I do want to comment that your thinking and the way you're talking about how the budget is viewed strategically is very helpful. And last year's testimony, there were 2 compelling pieces. One was the newness or the lack of experience of the firefighters because of retirement by attrition. And the second one was the idea of growth and what will happen. And there was even a sidebar into taxes are lower in Shelton and the mill rate is lower. And you really did explain how that growth has to be a sustained conversation. So even the piece where you reiterated that you're using the money for training and also you're using some of that reserve for equipment and staggering the equipment so that the turncoat is every 10 years or every 5 years is very helpful in it, and I think that everybody on this board does listen and does want to continue that conversation.
Thank you.
And thank you for the service.
Alderman Casey.
Through you, Chair. Forgive my ignorance, but so EMS as exclusively served by the fire department, or when I call 911, is 100% chance that I will get be served by fire trucks, fire company, or fire personnel, or there's some carryover for ambulance or private services?
So we do have a contract with Nelson Ambulance in the city to provide backup coverage within the city. But however, the fire department is the primary EMS provider and transport and care provider within the city of Milford. So again, we do contract with Nelson to provide backup support in the case of peak call volumes or times where our units are all accounted for, and that does happen more often than you'd probably imagine. They're very busy, but yes, to answer your question, we do contract with them.
What, like, percentage-wise, like, the fire personnel is handling 90% or like 95, or you have a general idea, or?
I would say 95 is a reasonable assumption. We do by far the vast majority of the medical calls within the city.
Thank you. I appreciate you, and I know that, you're one of the, foremost, like, you're highly accredited. So just briefly address, like, your accreditation and how to spread as people, like, send as cities that have the accreditation.
Well, again, I would say accreditation, we do carry the ISO Class 1 designation, which has been obtained through, that was decades of work. And again, I credit my predecessors for establishing that. And we, as the chiefs and administrative staff, continue to carry that forward with the hard work of the men and women on the line of the fire department. And that's just a testament to the hard work of the department, the support from all of you over the years. We can't do it unless we're working in unison there. We are probably considered the premier fire EMS agency in the state of Connecticut. As I've probably testified to you before, one of our award ceremony, a Yale physician came down, and he commented when he found out that we were holding an award ceremony in the city, reached out to us and said, can I please come down and speak on behalf of what I've witnessed to the services you provide and the lives you save? And we invited him in, of course, and he did speak to that. And some of you, most of you may have been present. It's things like that, and it's the thank yous from the people, and it's the life saved, and it's the data that we extract from our reports that show we have a profound effect. We save lives here in the city of Milford. The men and women, the medics, the EMTs, they work hard on a daily basis. So yes, we maintain a very high level of training. Just from square one to obtain a position with the Milford Fire Department, our testing requirements are very strict because we want the best of the best. But we have to work hard to maintain that. We have to invest in that. And again, it brings us back to this conversation, but just to answer your question, Alderman, so we've worked hard for the ISO Class 1 and the paramedic service in which we provide, and it's something that we should all share in being proud of.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Any more questions for the chief on this particular? Seeing none, I'm going to move right on to lights and hydrants and water. Anyone have any questions regarding lights, hydrants, and water? Alderman Federico.
Mr. Chairman, through you to the fire chief. Can you just explain the increase in the hydrant water charges? It's up about $70,000.
Sure. I'm going to defer to the finance director because while these line items fall under the fire department budget, I believe they are paid through the city, and any increases I think would be probably best addressed from the city side or the finance director.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Alderman Federico, are you referring to the hydrant water charges, that line item? Yes. Okay. Those are billed to us by the Regional Water Authority each year, twice a year actually, and that rate and all the calculations and determinations of the total cost twice a year is determined by the water company Certainly, it is based on the number of hydrants. That's one factor. But historically, it has been a line item that has gone up every year, and we have been short in many years in this account, and we've had to do budget transfers to make up for the shortfall. So I've worked with the administration to keep an eye on it and to try to gradually increase it year after year to keep up with the cost billed to us by the RWA. Thank you.
Thank you. Just one more question. Does the RWA give you any insight into what to budget?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Alderman Federico, they haven't given me directly much insight, but in conversations with other mayors, including Mayor Genitasio's predecessor, I know that the mayor has tried historically to talk to the water company to try to get the cost down, but as you can imagine, to put it simply, a lot of it is out of our control. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Chief, how many hydrants do we have in the city?
I believe it's somewhere just north of 1,400.
1,400? Now, you don't do any maintaining of those. That's the water company's job, right?
Correct.
So that's, and the lighting, of course, that's the UI company.
Correct.
I don't know why they put this under your heading,
That's right.
whatever. Anybody have any more questions regarding Alderman Vitale?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To you, thank you guys for being here tonight and the delivery. When there's a hydrant installation, and that's probably for a development or close to that, is it on the cost of the developer or us?
The developer.
So then the installation is what now for 6,000?
So hydrant installation, what you see, we're allotted 6,000 a year, and I don't believe we've tapped into that for many years. We've given that back to the city. It's typically because, as you know, with 1,400 plus hydrants, give or take, we have great water supply throughout the city. We have great coverage. And if a new development goes in, the fire code states that the developer has to install water supply and a hydrant or hydrants into that development. Where I look for areas where we're lacking water supply, north of the Post Road up in the Red Root Lane, Astriab, there's areas up there we have what's called a relay zone that we have to set up apparatus to do long supply line relays. The problem is this $6,000 budget doesn't get me very far, barely a shovel in the ground to address that. And that's a much deeper conversation, a costly venture, if you will. So again, I think we're grateful for the hydrant and the water supply coverage we do have. But again, this is here in case if we found an area that we could certainly use a hydrant and it would fall within this range and it's cost effective to do so, we would tap into that. But however, we haven't touched it in quite a few years now.
Maybe then it's the hydrant installation is kind of misleading. Maybe it could be termed hydrant upkeep or whatever, something else.
Well, it wouldn't be upkeep, Alderman, because that's what we pay that large amount of money to the Regional Water Authority. They upkeep the hydrants, they maintain them, they flush them, they make sure they're functional for us. Where that 6,000 would come in was if we found an instance where a water main on a particular street came to an end and then they decided to extend the street a little bit, but that would be on the developer. Or if we found an area where hydrant coverage would be better suited if we added an additional hydrant on an existing street and we wanted to put an additional hydrant in for additional coverage, we could tap into this fund to fund it.
Not only on the developer, but it also is at your discretion as to whether something is needed additional.
Correct, yes.
Thank you.
Any more questions regarding water, lights, and hydrants? Seeing none, we're going to move right on to emergency management. Might as well cover emergency management and CMED at the same time, Chief.
Sure. So emergency management, I just want to say we came in flat on this budget, so we are flat on the budget, and it's an even ask for this year. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer.
So anyone have any questions regarding emergency management or CMED? Alderman Federico.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, through you to the fire chief, just flat is good, but it seems like there's a lot of items here that don't get used. So is the thinking just to have a placeholder because they could be emergencies?
Correct. Again, we don't know what any given year will bring for our storm activity or emergency management objectives. Again, so certain accounts do not get fully used there, so that's why we've maintained a flat approach for quite a while now, and we're not asking for an increase this year. However, I don't think it'd be prudent to take away, because once again, we don't know what this year will bring, and we might need those resources moving forward.
Right. And you might move things from one line to another.
We do,
That's
yes,
what
at
I
times.
see
Take, for
in
instance,
history.
if you look
Yep.
on the bottom, there's a line item under capital outlays called the early warning system. And I know we're all familiar with the sirens on the poles along the shoreline that we do activate. Again, so I just received a quote, or authorized to give a quote to doing a full evaluation on that system. That system is very old, it's antiquated, but the interesting thing about it is it serves its purpose. It's well-known in the city here, and it does a good job of notification for people along the shoreline. As annoying as it may be at times when it goes off, it's effective in that approach. It gets people's attention. So, however, some of the speakers have not been functioning properly. Some of the parts are very old. The system is outdated. So I've authorized to do a full evaluation on the system and requested to schedule a date. I do have a quote in hand to do that. But once that evaluation comes back, I will be tapping into these funds to remedy that system and bring it up to modern standards, because I think it's long overdue.
Okay, thank you. And just for clarification, would that be something that gets expensed in the budget, or would that be something that goes on the capital improvement plan?
I would do my best to work within the budget to cover
Okay.
that. But again, it depends upon where they come back after the evaluation.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any more questions regarding emergency management or CMED? I don't see any. Chief, I want to thank you, Chief, and your staff, and all the men and women in your department for all the hard work you guys do for all our citizens of Milford. Thank you again.
Thank you, everyone.
The next department on our agenda is under the heading of Bridges, Community Healthcare, page 89, and the president and CEO is Jennifer Fiorello. Jennifer,
Hi.
good evening.
How are you?
Oh, good, thanks.
Thank you, Chairman Vitro and honorable members of the Board of Aldermen. Bridges Healthcare is eternally grateful for the continued support that we've received from the City of Milford over the years. Our agency provides vital mental health, substance use services to individuals residing in Milford, Orange, West Haven, and surrounding towns over the last 67 years. Our main site is located here on Bridgeport Avenue. That's our main site, and that's where we operate most of our programs and services within the organization. Presently, we provide outpatient clinical and medication management services to adults, children, and families, case management, care coordination for children, mobile crisis service, innovative substance use services, and many other specialized programs, including integrated primary care. In the last 5 years, our organization has experienced a period of growth. and that has allowed us to expand services in the catchment area, including Milford. These include expanded hours of operation for our mobile medication-assisted treatment to evenings and weekends, which allows people to access Suboxone, which is a medication for the treatment of opioid use disorder right there in our mobile treatment van. We've increased our presence at the schools. We now are in 6 Milford schools and 3 West Haven schools. We opened up a West Haven clinical site, which is much smaller than our Milford site, as well as our Wellness on Wheels mobile health unit. So our goal in the last 5 years has been to open access to people who otherwise may not access office-based care. In 23 and 24, Bridges provided services to about 1,800 Milford residents, which is about 60% of those served in the agency. Just to give you an idea of how our funding works, we have braided funding, which means we get state contracts from the state of Connecticut, Department of Mental Health, and Department of Children and Families. Healthcare providers like ours usually are very dependent on state contracts. That's how we operate. The remaining funding that we receive is through reimbursement through insurance. So about 25% of what our funding is presently is in reimbursement, mainly Medicaid. So 70% of the people that we serve are low or very low income and are on Medicaid. We do some commercial insurance and Medicare. So we essentially are a community safety net service, as is the other local mental health authorities in the state of Connecticut that are designated by the state Department of Mental Health, and that is what Bridges is. In the last few years, we've experienced a reduction in some of our local funding, specifically the United Way, the Milford United Way, which has been very supportive over the years, but we were the outlier and we were getting most of the funding, and now we're sort of right-sized. But when we lost the $100,000 that we did, believe it or not, despite the size of our budget, it was very impactful. Because generally, funding through grants and then insurance reimbursement doesn't cover the gap in services. So to cover an outpatient service is very expensive. The cost of prescribers, psychiatrists, and clinical staff, which are licensed social workers and therapists, are very expensive. So our per unit of cost can roughly range from $170 to $200, and that's usually for 45 minutes to an hour of service just for clinical therapists, not psychiatrists. So to paint a further picture of sort of how our funding works is that when for example, our DCF funding is not nearly enough to provide for our child outpatient program. So roughly 30% of the funding we get from the Department of Children and Families covers our child outpatient program. Another percentage covers grant reimbursement, and the dollars from the city of Milford actually cover the deficit. So if we didn't have the funding from the city of Milford, we ultimately would be perpetually operating our child outpatient services at a deficit, and that's the most vulnerable program we have. So I just wanted to sort of drive that point home. And also the range of services we offer the city of Milford, as well as the sheer volume. In this handout here, we list most of our programs, and the number of service hours we provided Milford residents last year was about 35,000, and 24,000 units of service, with our biggest programs being adult outpatient and child outpatient, and providing the most service. As you can see, Milford residents do get value out of the services we do provide, not just in outpatient, but also for crisis intervention, integrated primary care, and many of the others that we do provide. So I'm happy to take any questions that you might have.
Alderman Archeolo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. Hi.
Hi.
I just noticed, I just wanted to ask if there was any communication between the mayor's office or the Board of Finance about that $15,000 cut, and how we arrived at that number.
Actually, my funding request was $400,000. Our funding over the last, I don't know how many years, has been $380,000, so I requested $20,000 more.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not a cut, it was...
No, it's not a cut.
Okay.
No.
All right, excellent.
It's actually an addition of $5,000.
Okay, and hypothetically, how would that $15,000 have been used?
It makes up the difference of what we're not getting in United Way funding. We've had to absorb whatever we haven't gotten through that funding and local funding is what we absorb in our deficit for our child outpatient program.
Okay.
Everything is program specific, so.
And if I can ask another question. I asked a similar question earlier today, but with the kind of tumult at the federal level, and I noticed such a large percentage of your revenue comes from state and federal grants, I was wondering if you have been specifically affected, and a follow-up, what percentage of grant funding do you get from the state level versus federal?
Federal's 15%, and that's just for federal contracts for mainly our expanded services. Our state contracts are about 45 to 50% of our total budget, at least. So it's a huge amount of our operating budget and our programs that are supported through those dollars. Because we're a community mental health center, that's where the money comes from. We have been affected, but minimally affected right now. As of 2 weeks ago, we lost funding to ARPA block grants that that were funded through Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services, where one initiative to detect individuals for early psychosis. We lost about $50,000, which is the last quarter payment, which wasn't terrible, and we didn't have to lay anybody off. The other was through a learning collaborative that is no longer. So we haven't had any big dollar cuts as of this point.
One last follow-up, if that's okay. In the event that a federal cut came, how diversified would you say your revenue stream is to absorb that?
Well, through our program service fees, we have revenue, but clearly if we didn't have those funds, we wouldn't be able to operate our programs. We wouldn't.
Okay. All right.
We have fundraising. We have about 25% program service fees. We are government subsidized.
Absolutely.
Safety net.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much.
Alderman Federico.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the director. So just one follow-up question on, you said you get a lot of Medicaid funding as well. How much of the budget is that?
It's actually part of our reimbursable services, so
Okay.
Medicaid being the health insurance carrier. So if you were to look at the proportion of Medicaid that comes out of our program service fees, it's about another 15% of our funding. So 15 plus the 15 federal plus plus our grant funds.
Okay. And have you seen any impacts in Medicaid yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. We have yet to see that happen.
Okay. Thank you.
Any additional questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Alderman Willis.
Yes, I just have one comment. I guess for anybody that's watching on MGAT or anything, I think with the devastating cuts to Medicaid that's being threatened right now, I think it's incumbent upon all of us to contact our congressmen and our senators, because I think that's the only way that this is not going to happen, is if we contact them and we make it loud and clear that this is unacceptable. Thank you.
Alderman Beatty.
Through you, Chairperson Vitro, thank you to Director Jennifer. There was a hint of a question about how are you preparing. Would you tell a little, because I know from board conversations that you're active in your trade association and you're trying to advocate for all nonprofits, not just Bridges, but particularly you serve people who wouldn't otherwise be served if there are cuts. So can you tell us, and is that
Sure.
being effective?
Yeah, Bridges Healthcare is a member of the Connecticut Nonprofit Alliance. We are a trade association. They work with us and lobby with us to promote responsible public policy that's going to really advocate for those who can't necessarily advocate for themselves. So in this instance, it would be those folks that generally take advantage of our services, and there are many, many providers as part of the Nonprofit Alliance who participate in advocacy. So we're very active in public policy meetings. We try to get involved with the nonprofit rallies. We talk to our legislators. We hold a legislative breakfast to inform our legislators and our congresspeople about what's going on. I mean, I think at this point, most of them do know that there could be some rather devastating cuts to Medicaid that we are not. I don't know what it's going to mean for Connecticut, or if it's going to mean something for Connecticut, but I can tell you that our programs really wouldn't be available if we didn't have the Medicaid funding. And people couldn't, I mean, I can't, I don't have a crystal ball, so I can't say if it's going to impact our entire client population. I don't think it will. I think there will be collateral damage, meaning a portion of people won't be eligible.
Any more questions for Bridges? I don't see any. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Thank you for all the good work you do for the city.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda, next department on our agenda is the Harbor Management and Marina. Director Jim Donegan, page 110. Good evening, Jim.
Good evening. Thank you, Chairman Vitro, members of the Board of Aldermen, for giving me the opportunity to come out tonight. Last year, we had another successful boating season down at the harbor. Both of our mooring fields, our small vessel storage racks were completely full, and the marina was busy all summer long. We're in the process of putting it all back together now, getting our moorings out into the harbor, putting together the docks, and getting the marina and grounds ready for the upcoming season. In this year's budget, there are not any major changes from last year, a few minor ones, but I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone has.
Anyone having any questions for the harbor management? Alderman Bevan.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, are you planning to put in more canoe and kayak racks down at the launching?
We have talked about it. The waiting list for canoe and kayak racks has fluctuated. 3 years ago, we doubled the amount that we have down there. We built all new racks. We doubled the capacity. We have about 130 spaces for paddleboards, kayaks, and dinghies at the boat ramp, and we have 32 spaces available at Walnut Beach. There's been a waiting list the last 2 years at the boat ramp, which has fluctuated at a high up about 50 or so names, and at what we're getting into now, we're down to about 20 or so names. So we're trying to gauge whether or not we have enough capacity. The other thing that we have to look at and be concerned with is, do we have enough parking in the area and enough upland facility to expand further? So we're trying to go hand in hand with, do we have enough? How quickly are we moving through that waiting list? And do we have enough upland facilities and parking to make an expansion?
Thank you very much.
Any more questions regarding the harbor management? I don't see any.
Actually,
Okay. Alderman Pacelli.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, how are you tonight?
I'm well, thank you.
Good. Can you just explain your thoughts related to the electricity line item? That's the one item I noticed seems
Sure.
to be cut back, and I'm looking at the prior numbers as far as what was expensed and whatnot. It just, I'm not quite clear as to how you got to where we are, so.
Sure.
What effect
So
might that have on the
our electricity bill, we pay electricity costs for the marina and the property, the docks, our commercial fisherman area, and also the lighting and power over at the boat ramp. And some of that is, those costs are offset over payments that we receive. One, the boaters pay for electricity when they come into the marina, and then two, our commercial fishermen pay a yearly fee for the electricity that they use. What was happening, though, is there was a period of time towards the end of the winter where we hadn't started taking in revenue for the following season yet, and hadn't had our reservations come in, and we're starting to run low. The numbers are $4,500 and, $6,000. Our electricity costs are a lot more than that. They're offset by what we bring in. So in our meetings in preparing the budget and talking with Peter and the mayor, we know that that money's coming, so there's no need to raise the line item, and we kept it at that lower number.
Okay, thank you. My question, I appreciate that. It was just a little bit geared towards the fact that the amount that's going to be before us is less than what you had requested. So did you believe that's sufficient for you to do what you need to do? Okay.
It is sufficient,
Thank you.
yes.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I see we finally got rid of that sunken boat over there by Morningside. We finally got that out of the water. That's great. I know it was a lot of little complications involved in it, so I was happy to see that it was taken care of. Thank you.
There certainly was.
Any more questions for Harbor Management? I don't see any. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing all your work that you do for the citizens and the voters and answering all our questions.
Thank you.
The next department on our agenda is Economic and Community Development. I don't see Justin here. We'll pick that up on another night. Chief of Staff Justin Rosen is not here this evening to answer any of your questions, so we're going to hold that for another night. The next item is open space. Page 34, we had Jeremy Grant, former Alderman, City of Milford.
Mr. Chairman, through you, the Information Technology MIS Director is here. I believe that was next on after Harbor Management. Adam Heller.
Oh, they got a new one. Okay. I didn't get the new revised one. Sorry, Jeremy. You're out of turn. My fault.
Okay.
See you in a little bit.
So the next one on the next department is the Informational Technology, page 39, MIS Director Adam Heller. Good evening, Adam.
Good evening.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
You can start anytime you like.
Great. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to discuss this year's proposed budget. A couple of highlights from this year. We finished a years-long upgrade to our network. So now at this point, there's always been questions about Wi-Fi in our buildings. It's pretty much been resolved citywide now. So any building you go in, the Wi-Fi is available to the public when they go in and need internet connection to work with the departments. We're also wrapping up a physical security project that we've been working on for a few years. So if you go through Parsons especially, you might notice some of the doors have panels on them that allow access through a card now rather than a key. We're trying to secure our building for our employees and for our residents and guests to our city, and that includes additional security cameras as well. So these are some of the highlights. We continue to be the department that serves those that serve the public through technology consulting and assistance. Helping with their efficiencies. This year's budget, normally I come with a pretty flat budget. This year we have a few changes to some line items. I'm happy to go over those. I'll go over the smaller ones, changes first. Some of these are due to an ongoing absorption of budgets from other departments. We've started this a few years ago where department budgets were distributed for technology and we started consolidating them. There's still a few outliers. One of those departments is DPLU. This year we're absorbing those funds into the IT budget to cover their technology needs. So first, let's just highlight the cell phone budgets being increased for that exact reason from last year. About $7,600 is being moved from DPLU. The computer line as well has a $1,400 move, and then the increase in that is due to increased costs of hardware. We provide all of the laptops, all of the iPads, all of the phones to most of the departments. All of the iPads in the fire trucks, for instance, were supplied by our department. They have a burn rate, or no pun intended on that. They go through iPads frequently, given their job. They're low cost, but we do have a bit of a volume that we go through, and those costs are going up on computers. We bought computers a few years ago. We refreshed the fleet. We're starting to notice a few computers are starting to fail. We still have some under warranty, but monitors, keyboards, all that comes out of this, and there's been an increase in the need. The big one is the, what is that line? Yeah, software maintenance line. So this year we experienced a few issues with the software, or next year we have a significant increase in our operating costs due to just contractual increases. They're significantly higher than normal on our maintenance lines. It's an averaging of 10 or 15% increase from last year to this year just to maintain the software. And the software I'm speaking of are things like our tax collection software, tax assessment software, our the permitting software, all the software the departments use to serve the public, we pay for out of this budget line. The largest increase, though, is due to Office 365. In past years, we used alternate funding sources such as ARPA funding to pay for the 3 years obligation of Office 365. The contract is due now. This year it's coming up again for another 3 years, and that cost is now being added to the operating budget. That is approximately $280,000. So that's where the significant portion of the increase comes from for this operating budget. So with that, I'm available to answer any of your questions.
Mr. Chairman?
Alderman Willis.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chairman, to Adam. I was just wondering now with artificial intelligence sneaking its head around and going to become something pretty big in the future, is there any things that you're doing as a department or how this is going to affect municipalities like Milford?
Well, currently, this budget, we do not have anything proposed to assist with that. In the future, we'll have a proposed position, a data analyst that will be working towards gathering our data together so that we can use it in order to be supplying the public using artificial intelligence and other search tools and reporting tools. So we have disparate data systems throughout the city. We need a way to consolidate those, manage those, and then be able to use those. Because AI is basically a very fancy, very fast search that provides information in a meaningful way, more so than the standard search. But it needs data in order to be able to give you the information back. Right now, our data is located within each application that we have, and there's no good way to call that data in order to supply it back in a way that's useful to the user. So in the future, we are planning on doing something in that regard.
Thank you.
Phil, I have a question.
Alderman Beatty.
Through you, Chairperson Vitro. Thank you to the director. Just more on that. Is that par for the course? Most operations would have to cull the data in a new way in order to have a central AI person manage that. How does what you're doing in this operation compare to
What I'm doing in the operation today, or what I'm planning for the future?
preparing for the future for AI? I mean, that's developmental for all organizations
Sure.
and agencies now. So,
And we're all facing that struggle. For years, data has existed in silos. For our financial system, for instance, we put in financial data and we retrieve financial data. We pay our bills, we can see that information. And same with tax collection, tax assessment. They've existed in independent databases that we then go into that system and can report off of. What AI would allow us to do is analyze data across those databases and retrieve that information so it could do a comparison, analysis, whatever the request is, across multiple areas. All of that data is in different formats, it's in different databases, it's in different data centers. It needs to, and the system, the AI, would have to understand what the data is and how it relates to the query that's being asked. So right now, we're all facing this challenge of how do we use our information that we use today and continue to do tomorrow, but how do we then also have our data available so that we can find our information in a better way using AI?
now you mentioned in the future, it wouldn't be that that staff person dedicated to development of that AI interface is needed now? I guess that's my question.
It was proposed, but I mean, that's certainly a question for us to answer. But it's a matter of when that we put that in the budget, yes. So.
Alderman Federico.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the director. The figure that you mentioned for the Office 365 of $280,000, is that for all 3 years?
That's annually.
That's 280 annually. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
the obligation is 3 years. So the contract term is 3 years, but that's annual cost.
It'll be 280 every
Correct.
year for 3
Yeah,
years.
it won't
Okay.
go up for the 3 years.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's clear. And then my second question is around the salary and wages. So there's a difference between what you requested and what's before us of about $300,000. It looks like it's several positions. Can you just speak to that change?
Sure. I propose. So I've been meeting. I think this is my 7th budget coming before this board. It's amazing how much time has flown. And we've talked about through the years of the different changes that I brought into the technology of the city and organizationally. And we've made great strides in improving the technology and the services we deliver to the public. We're at the point, though, with the technology has improved so much and things have changed so much, we now have to look at the department and change the way the department is structured in order to meet the needs of the future. So that was what I had proposed, is because of the changes we discussed a bit, and changes that are coming ahead, such as AI, that now we propose structuring the department in a way that can meet the needs of the future. For instance, my time as manager is divided between all of the things that a typical director would do, as well as operations management. It leaves me very little time to actually go to departments and discuss with them what their needs are and how we can then incorporate those in the overall strategic plan of technology, meeting the needs of the board and the mayor. So that would be why some of these changes are proposed. Is one, I could focus more on outreach, discussing what data is needed, what kind of reporting, how can AI better serve, what needs do you need as a department in order to serve the public, leaving some of the daily operations to a supervisor that is not in the department currently, which would be a retitling. So the position I'm in would become a director. The position that I'm in now stays a manager, and then would do the overall operations. In addition to that, on the supervisor side, we supply training to the departments on a lot of the technology we've introduced. One of the drawbacks of all this new technology is that people need to learn how to use it, and we've thrown a lot of stuff at a lot of people in a short amount of time over these years. And there's been a strong request for that kind of training. I believe it's important for supervisory training rather than a staff member, because I need someone who can make decisions on the fly. If they see things in that department that maybe needs further study, they can come back to me and mention that, hey, this department is doing this, maybe we need to look at that, and tailor training based on needs, and also an analysis of a help desk system to be able to then say, all right, these are the areas of priority for training, while these other areas, though people want it, we can push aside for later. Along those lines, I asked for the data analyst, which I spoke about. One of the roles would be to introduce or at least study AI and see how we can incorporate our data. And then we have 2 high-level people in the department for network and security is one of them, and the other one is for the management of all of our applications. When they're doing their work, many times they're pulled away just to go replace a printer, go fix a keyboard, replace a monitor, something of that nature. So there was an IT support specialist that was put into that chart as well. So that was the intent of the overall change of the department. It was to be able to better manage the technology we're bringing in, as well as meet the needs of the department.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, if I may just direct my question to the mayor for a moment. What was the thinking behind the cut of these positions?
Well, first, the increase in the software and maintenance line item for $1,052,000, that was previously, by my predecessor, that was funded through ARPA funds. So we had to plug that into the budget first, because we had to increase that line item in order to appropriately fund the software and the maintenance, which is very important because those components are working every day. And as far as moving forward, we're going to be investing a lot into this department. But the big significant change was the software and maintenance, which was the first step towards investing in this department. Like I said, that was previously funded by ARPA funds. So this is going into the budget appropriately.
So is the thinking on the 3 positions, they'll come back for potential budget next year?
I would certainly hope so. I would propose it, sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Alderman Morenin.
Thank you, through you, Chair, to Adam. So Adam, your current title is manager?
Correct.
Okay. So are you in a union or non?
Yes.
You are, okay. Because I'm a little confused on the structure, because when we did the salary review last year, there was language saying that the IT manager was moved to a non-represented.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, so I have the data that, we had this table, you might recall, where we made adjustments for directors for salaries. You weren't included, but the language in there had the IT manager go from a representative position to a non-representative. So I'm a little confused about the structure. So I'm trying to understand in terms of what you're looking for. So if you were to go from an IT manager, then that position would be open and you would move into the non-representative as the director. And at any point were you already moved in to be a director?
No, just organizationally, operationally, I've been acting.
Acting director, right.
But there's been no position for director.
So there's no been language, because I thought there also was some language back in Mayor Riccitelli's time where there was a director.
Yeah, I've seen that information recently as well,
Yeah,
but
so-
I was not aware of that. I started around Thanksgiving of 2018, so
Mhm.
I wasn't aware of
Yeah.
anything that happened before that until recently.
Yeah, so that's why I'm confused on
Sure.
all the different information, and certainly think that IT is an area that, needs some investment to, but I don't really understand the structure to go forward on that, and I think we would need to have that clarified through human resources to understand where we are with that, because we also got some information from the city attorney indicating that. So I would like clarification on where we are with the identification of representative versus non-representative and where we're going to go with that.
Sure.
Should we come back again in reference to that? And I think for your benefit too, that
Sure.
you should know, and it should be clear, and there shouldn't be a question, and it shouldn't change each time. It should be consistent.
And yes, and the proposed, and perhaps for next year, was exactly to help clarify that. I mean, the department's gone through many changes. Some of the MEA employees, for instance, I've rewritten their job descriptions over the last few years 3 times, just because of the needs of the roles have changed so quickly. So we're catching up now to a lot of the changes, and that's what the proposal was for.
Any more questions for the MIS department? Excuse me. I think we got it covered, Adam.
Great.
Thank you very much for
Appreciate it.
answering all our questions.
Thank you.
Thank you for the great job you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Jeremy. But this is the Open Space Department, page 34. The Sustainable Manager is here, Jeremy Grant, once again.
Hello again, everybody. Happy spring. So spring is a wonderful time for open space. We have people out and about in our 3,200 acres of open space constantly. They're always using our trail systems, from people pushing strollers to people taking and getting out and doing their daily exercise walk as a senior. This is also a really fun time. Since the last time I've been here, the city has been awarded a silver level sustainable CT certification for completing over 50 different actions in all 13 different categories. That is really a holistic way of looking at sustainability, of making sure that we have a really exceptionally well-running towns in our environment, in our public health, in our economics, in our arts. All of that goes into it. Also, I'm really excited that we actually just got certified as a Tree City, actually for the 4th year, by the Arbor Day Foundation. That was an amazing initiative that Mayor helped take and sign off on and get running. Also, the spring is a great time right now to be planting trees. The city is doing our 5th annual tree giveaway, which has had a tremendous success. We've been able to take and get trees planted in our neighborhoods, which take and improve home values, improve human health, and just incredible for our environment. Trees are absolutely what we need in our neighborhoods. There are still trees available. There are 5 different native species that are still available on the city website to reserve for the pickup we have coming up in about 2 weeks. We also have our Earth Day celebration coming up on May 3rd on the downtown Milford Green. That'll be from 10 to 2 in conjunction with the Downtown Business Association Spring Fest. So we got 2 things going on at once, even though, this is springtime in Milford. There's always something going on. But yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Alderman Bevan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. First of all, I want to thank you for all the help you've given me in the last year of handling all the problems I might have had with constituents in my area and throughout the city of Milford. On the tree giveaway, I see that you're basically a one-man show. On tree giveaway, can you tell me who helps you out with the passing out of trees?
Yeah, so we have amazing residents in our city. They always want to take and step up and help and volunteer. We have groups such as one that you're a part of, the Milford Roadrunners. We have church groups. We have both of our high schools that are involved. We have our conservation groups. It's a slew of people that all come out and want to just help the city. Which also right now we have a constant stream of people coming in doing cleanups throughout our open spaces, our beaches. It's just the city of Milford and our residents are the absolute best. So yeah, volunteers are incredible.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any more questions for the Open Space Department? Alderman Jenkins.
Not a question, just a comment again about the tree giveaway. I have taken advantage of that tree giveaway, and I will tell you the efficiency that is run and that morning pickup is fantastic. I think it was 2 years ago. It was absolutely pouring, and people would head right up to your car, completely covered up, check what your tree was. I didn't even have to get out of the pickup truck. They loaded it up, and I was gone in 15 minutes from the time I got in line, and I think that it is a real testament to what you're doing there, as well as, like you said, to the residents of this city who get involved as volunteers and are doing a fantastic job, so thank you.
Any other questions for the Open Space Department? Alderman Federico.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to either Mr. Grant or the Finance Director. I'm just curious, are there any other line items in the budget related to open space, or is it purely just Mr. Grant's pay?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Alderman Federico, in the general fund budget, it is simply the salary for the position, but I do know that the mayor's office works with Jeremy to help with his office supplies and various expenses throughout the year. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any further questions for the Open Space Department? Hearing none. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you for all the good work you do.
Thank you, everybody.
For the city. The next department on our agenda is the Mayor's Office. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Mayor's Office is a flat budget. I'm happy to take any questions you may have in regards to the Mayor's Office at this time.
Any questions for the Mayor's Office Department? Alderman Federico.
Mr. Chairman, through you to the mayor, I'm just curious, what's the difference between mayor's administrative assistant and secretary?
The The secretary is an at-will position, and the administrative assistant is part of a collective bargaining unit.
Oh, okay.
Any more questions regarding the mayor's office? Hearing none, we'll go into general expenses. Any questions regarding your general expenses? Well, we got the mayor's ear. Alderman Federico.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the mayor. At the bottom of page 19, there's a list of capital outlays, various organizations, some charitable. I'm just curious because I see quite a few of them have nothing expended so far in the current budget year that we're in, and some of them have zeros in the previous year. So are these new additions to the budget, or are these just things that we put on there as placeholders and we may or may not pay them? I can call out specific lines if you would like.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, if I may, to Alderman Federico, we require these various grant recipients, if you will, to send a letter to the mayor's office on an annual basis to formally request the grant money, and so that affects the timing of the payouts, and so that the time the budget book is printed or produced at the mayor's level, for example, the request may not have come in, but we definitely hope that each agency would request prior to June 30th by the end of the year so they can receive their payment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions for the general expenses department? I don't see any. We'll move on to the recreation department, page 82, Director Bill Garfield. Good evening, Mr. Garfield.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you all for having me. Thank you to the mayor, Justin, who's not here, and Peter for their work in getting our budget together. Also to the finance board for all their work. The recreation department continues to add programs. I believe right now our numbers are probably better than ever. We're growing, which I know the chief alluded to. Just our city's growing, and I think our programs are growing across the board. We're adding more and more spaces, tighter and tighter, field space, gym space. Everywhere we turn, we need more. One big thing I'd love to share is this summer we start our partnership with Camp Argo, which is a premier summer camp. It's been held in Orange for years. They were looking for a change and moved. They came to Eisenhower Park, and I think, I'd like to thank Ken Catino. He worked tirelessly to bring them here, and also Tony Weeks, who gave a lot of hours to recreation. I think she's joining our payroll this next budget. They did an amazing job to get them here, and we're going to start in June with them. Their camp's almost sold out completely, which I think is going to bring a rebirth to Eisenhower Park. The pavilion's going to be opened again and used. The pond maybe not quite yet, but maybe someday. But the trails will be full of kids. The fields will be played on again. I think it's going to be a wonderful addition to our city. As far as my budget, I just have a couple items that I've looked for increases, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Alderman Beatty.
Yes. On page 82, the seasonal temporary, the department requested, and the finance board recommends It's considerably less, the difference between 465,000 to 425. Can you update me on the issue about the lifeguards? And we had quite a discussion last year that how difficult it was to get lifeguards, to maintain them, to have them, to recruit them, et cetera. And was there any progress in that direction?
So, yes, we made great strides. Ken Catino's going to owe me lunch because I have to shine him again and tell you he's worked very hard. Our lifeguards are up to almost probably 35, 40 guards. Our beaches are being staffed again. We are much healthier on the beaches than we were that time we spoke, where we were threatening to have to close and not have lifeguards at all. So we're doing much, much better.
Good, I'm glad to hear that. And that was a concerted effort through the person that you just identified, Ken.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, there was a problem that some of the seasonal workers began the season, but then by the Labor Day, that you had lost them for a lot of reasons. So is there a plan in place so that that doesn't happen?
So the hope is always that we have a balance between the high school and the college-aged kids.
Right.
They go back to school. Probably never going to be cured because it's always going to be that demographic of high school, college. But it seems like that 16, 17, 18-year-old is going up, which is going to help keep the beaches safer into those later months of the beach season.
And lastly, I saw the advertisement for $18 an hour for the lifeguards. Did that represent an increase? Did that have something to do with it?
We constantly try to push our bounds with the increases. I know we're probably not the highest, but our budget's tight. We employ well over 100 seasonal temporary employees over the course of the year. And between our camps and all the programs and all the gyms, and it's a little bit of a tightrope act as we kind of come down the stretch here.
And are you satisfied that there is enough personnel? I mean, it's such a robust rec program across all ages.
Satisfied, yes. I mean, we always want more, but, that's just our nature, I guess. But yes, satisfied for sure.
Alderman Pacelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Director Garfield. My question here relates to electricity. I see that the last year's budgeted number of 35,000, and this year you had come in at 50 requests, and it looks like it was cut back to 45. Can you explain a little bit about what the needs are to increase, and then how you react to the 5,000 less than asked for as well?
So electricity throughout the city, we all know, has gone up. My portion of it, recreation's portion of it, our budget was pretty much spent. Actually, I have $13 left in December. So January, February, March, April, May, and June, we scramble to pay our electric bill. We move money, we borrow from ourselves, and we get through it. It's just, again, it comes back to what we said. Our city's grown. The demand is through the roof. The tennis, the pickleball, the baseball, the softball, football, lacrosse. Everybody wants lights. Everybody wants to play under the lights. And, now our adult softball league just grew from 63 teams to 79 teams. So there's more demand again on lights. They're going to play into the night. So it's constant. So again, thanks to the increase, we'll get a lot closer to the end and be able to keep things bright.
Yeah, just as a follow-up, considering that such a large component of this is, sounds like lighting for the various athletic activities. I'm not familiar with what we have for lights, but are our lighting structures currently up-to-date, LED, energy efficient, or are there ways in which in the future this can be looked at as a way to also say, make an investment that will save money over time?
So, under my umbrella is the Orange Ave turf field, which is LED, which is foot field, LED, the pickleball courts, LED, the tennis courts, not LED. We're exploring options, but it's costly. The biggest problem is way back when those lights were put in at Eisenhower, they were put underneath the court. So to get to them, we have to rip the court up. So we're trying to come up with a creative way not to do that and have to blow the whole place up. Fowler Field is LED, the basketball at Fowler's LED now, so we're getting there, we're close. But it still is, it's every day. I mean, it's a lot.
No, thank you. I
Yep.
appreciate those answers. Thank you.
Alderman Jenkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Director Garfield. Hi, Bill.
Hey.
Just to question some rumblings that I've heard of individuals through Milford. I know that we offer lessons, pickleball, things of that nature. And I think that there's a very reasonable fee that's charged for those lessons. The frustration that I hear from some residents is that there's only a $5 increase if you're a non-resident, which prevents the ability of residents who may have wanted to get into a class because of non-residents who are only getting an upcharge of $5. And their position is, we're residents, we pay taxes, we support this, that there should be an increase in the non-resident fee compared to just a $5 upcharge. And I just wanted your thoughts, or if that had been discussed, or if there's a reason that that price point was picked.
That price point was adopted before I got here. It's always been there. I think it served us fine, but we've grown, as I've said a couple times. Probably is a good time to revisit it. Makes sense that people could have a frustration. I haven't heard it directly, to be truthful, but something I think it's a perfect thing to bring up at our next Park Beach and Rec meeting and potentially change it.
Thank you.
Alderman Federico.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you to the Recreation Director and possibly the Finance Director as well. Similar question to I asked one of the departments previously. I know that you collect a lot of fees from different programs. Will I find that revenue in my budget book somewhere?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Alderman Federico, it is in the budget book under the Special Revenue Fund, but I'm happy to give you information if you wanted to ask about the Rec Department's Special Revenue Fund itself. Thank you.
Thank you. Could you give us that breakdown as a follow-up, some information?
Sure, thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any more questions for the Recreation Department? I don't see any. Thank you, Mr. Garfield.
Thank you all very much.
The next department on our agenda is the Law Department, but the Law Department is not here this evening. So we'll move on to the next department, which is Public Debt Service, page 78. Anybody have any questions regarding Public Debt Service? No one? Okay. We'll close under public debt service, open under employee benefits. Does anybody have any questions regarding employee benefits? Seeing none, we'll move on to insurance and bonds. Page 85. Does anyone have any questions regarding insurance and bonds? Alderman Archeola.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just wondering, I believe these are all departments that would be answered by the city attorney.
I think he usually does answer these, right, Peter? All these items underneath the law department.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, are you referring to the departments or sections you just referred to, the past couple or two or three? Like,
And claims and refunds, those are all law department?
through you, Mr. Chairman, I believe those are normally the finance department and sometimes the mayor. He and I would normally work to answer those, not the law department.
Okay. So once again, anybody have any questions regarding insurance and bonds? Alderman Federico.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question on employee benefits? I couldn't turn my pages quite fast enough. Through you to the finance director, can you just talk about the decrease in the health insurance, self-insurance contribution? It's about 1.2 million less than last year's budget.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, Alderman Federico, yes, that relates similar to our discussion last year, how I work with the insurance consultant actuary to get the projection for the health insurance cost each year. And so again, with this year, upon that review, we were comfortable in lowering the figure based on the claims data that was provided, along with the use of fund balance that we have done historically. Thank you.
And can you tell me what the fund balance is currently sits at? How much? What dollar amount?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I believe the fund balance is about close to $9 million in the health insurance fund, and we've used some of that to help offset the increase in health insurance costs. Thank you.
Yeah, I know we discussed it last year, and I know, that's where you get the information. I just wanted to ask again because it's another decrease, and if I look at the 2023-2024 year, it was 16 million, so it's a decrease of over $5 million. So it's just so substantial. I want to make sure we understand what's driving it.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I think what's driving it are a number of factors, but the two main at the top would be one, the use of fund balance, similar to what we do in the general fund to help offset the increase in expenditures. And secondly, I may have mentioned this before, we also have a component of high-cost claimants, if you will, and there's stop-loss insurance that covers high-cost claims. We, the city, have a retention level of $200,000. Anything above $200,000 would be covered by the stop-loss insurance. And so, without getting into detail, and there are privacy laws, I will say that there is one claim that fell off in this particular year in our discussions with Anthem, and so we know that claim is coming back in the following year, in fiscal year 27. So we have a break this year in 26 on that high cost claim, and we will see it again in 27 because again, Anthem, there's this term, I mentioned it in the past, you may not remember, called lasering, where by regulation, certain higher claims, instead of having that 200,000, they can actually laser it, and it can be, the city can be responsible up to 600,000 instead of the 200,000 for certain claims that are at a high level. And again, this year we caught a break on one of them, but I expect that will return back to the lasering in '27. So that's the second reason for the decrease. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your answer.
Is there any more questions regarding employee benefits, insurance and bonds, or claims and refunds? We'll move on to benefit and salary reserve. Private school textbook. Education audit fees. School debt. Employee benefits, non-teaching. And the last one on our agenda is the education health insurance contribution. Does anybody have any questions with any of those departments or headings? Alderman Beatty.
Yes, through you, Chairperson Vico, to Peter. Back to what you were just talking about the lasering of an individual high claim coming back home to roost. Can that fund balance of $9 million that you talked about in the health insurance funds be used to protect us in that way? You talked about the fund balance of $9 million in health insurance funds that was in reserve. Would be used if we were indeed liable for that lasering you're talking about in '27?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, Alderman Beatty, I would say whichever direction it goes in, the fund balance could come into play. If due to lasering, if we haven't budgeted enough in the fund for the health insurance costs and we have more higher level claims and there's more lasering, instead of having that 200,000 protection, I have an exposure of 400,000. And so if we haven't budgeted enough, we would draw from the fund balance at the end of the year. We might have a shortfall if there was not enough surplus to make up for it. And then, as I said earlier, we also use it to help offset the increase in the claims themselves, because the medical costs, the pharmacy, including the stop loss premium itself, go up year after year, and we're seeing increases again this year.
Thank you.
So is there any other questions regarding those accounts? Alderman Federico.
Mr. Chairman, through you to the Finance Director, the $9 million in the fund that you mentioned before, is that include the education, or is there a separate fund balance for education?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Alderman Federico, no, that includes City and Board of Ed combined.
Thank you.
It's shared for both.
And that's $9 million as of today?
That is $9 million as of June 30th, 2024, which was reported in the last audited financial statements.
Okay, so when the budget is planned, do you plan to use a portion of that $9 million?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Alderman Federico, yes. Historically, that has been done in the past, and we plan to do it again this year.
Okay.
Otherwise, you would see a significant increase in both line items.
Okay. So as a follow-up, could you give us the amounts that are being used for, some of that's going to be used in current year budget and some of it's going to be used in next year's budget, correct?
Correct. I think last year, if you recall, the amount was, I believe it was $4.5 million used last year. And that's the current year 25 budget. And this year, we're increasing it to $8 million. And you asked what portion is the city and Board of Ed. It's shared with both, but I will say that the Board of Ed has a much higher level of claims than the city. And historically, their claims have gone up higher than the city claims.
Okay, thank you. If you could, as a follow-up, just give us that split. It would be helpful to know what's Board of Ed and what's city for each of the 2 budget years. Thank you.
Any more questions regarding those last few? No more questions. Okay. I will entertain a motion to recess until Wednesday, April 16th, 2025 at 7 o'clock. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Opposed? We are in recess. Thank you very much, everyone.